2. All right, welcome to the second half of FMI 16 for this week. I am your host, Shiloh Camrath, and joining me, as he does always, is George Costel.
Hello again.
Yeah, and so in this part of the show, we are going to be discussing, as promised, the Force Awakens Blu-ray deleted scenes and the Rogue One teaser trailer, the official Rogue One teaser
Oh
trailer that
yeah.
dropped this week. Yeah.
The idea was essentially focus on all the new Star Wars footage that came out this week. So deleted scenes from the old movie, new footage from the new one, obviously. Uh, so there's a lot to talk about. It should be a good bit of fun.
Yeah.
Um,
So, George, you want to start us off here with the deleted scenes?
sure. So for those of you who don't know, there were 7 deleted scenes released. And the way it was 6 came on the Blu-ray disc, and then if you either got the digital HD or the redeemed the digital copy of the movie that comes with the Blu-ray, you would get the 7th. I think the longest one is only about a minute.
Yeah.
But there's some fun stuff in there. So I guess let's get into it. Let's start chronologically speaking. The first one in the movie is Finn and the Villager.
Yeah.
And so you can see here just a little still from that. I mean, it's essentially like a 30-second scene, Shiloh.
Yeah, and you know what? To tell you the truth, I really didn't like this scene all that much. I
Yeah,
don't think
essentially.
it added anything.
Well, that's the thing. Essentially, the scene is it's Finn like staring down, like it's him in the village raid, and he stares down this woman. He lowers his gun. He lets her go.
Yeah.
And so I completely got why this scene was cut, because I think you're right. It's just as effective, if not more effective, later when everyone else is firing. And
Exactly.
he doesn't.
In the movie, I didn't think when I was watching the movie, I really don't have enough context for this. I wish it was just a little more explicit that Finn wasn't going to shoot these people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the movie worked really well. That beginning scene was very well done with Finn and all that.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
So I think it was an easy scene to cut. I get why they did it. Then we probably won't. I mean, just so you guys know, we won't have to spend much time on each of these. They're all really quick.
Yeah.
One of the scenes, probably my favorite deleted scene, one of my favorites, was Jakku Message, which is it's essentially the Resistance base getting a message from, I guess, some of their scouts, saying they saw Poe's destroyed X-wing, the first signs of the First Order, but no sign of BB-8. And so it's essentially, that gets relayed to Leia. They have a talk, about what they have to do. You see C-3PO, you see Snap Wexley, and
Yeah.
I get why this scene was cut, because Leia has a pretty dramatic reveal later
Yeah.
in the movie, and this kind of would have cheapened that a little bit. But at the same time, it's also something I'm really glad to see released, because I actually did really enjoy this scene. I enjoyed giving Snap a little more to do. I thought that was fun. It was nice to see 3PO again early.
Yep.
I mean, it was light. One of the lines is telling, where Snap says,
Yes.
that we can't go to we should go to the Republic, and Leia's like, we have to be smarter than that. And one of the things, that's one of the things the movie only touches on lightly, is the distrust of the Republic and some of its failures. And that makes it a little more explicit in a way that we've seen kind of in some of the ancillary materials, but not as much in the film itself. So that would have been a good line to keep. But I mean, if you keep that line, you have to keep the whole scene. So I see how it went down.
And that line, I think it really is telling as far as the image I have of the Resistance is that there are some parts of the Republic that are kind of non-explicitly kind of helping them along and funding them, but officially they're not endorsed by the
Exactly.
Republic.
I think that's
And
100%.
Yeah, and it seems to me like they're constantly going on and on about how evil the First Order is and how it did this and how it did that. And it kind of reminds me of, Europe before World War II, is there were so many signs, that Hitler was just, planning to conquer the rest of Europe, but yet just no one wanted to listen. They're like, they're calling again saying this another horrible thing happened or this other
Yeah.
thing happened. And I think if they would have gone to the Republic, they would have been like, yeah, we'll look into it. Get out of here.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I think Leia was one of the few who actually recognized the First Order as a legitimate threat. The Republic thought that treaties were enough to deal with it. I think that World War II parallel is apt, and again kind of reinforces the First Order as space Nazis, which the movie made pretty explicit already.
Yeah.
But that's a good connection that I didn't really think of. But I also think you're very correct. So, anyway.
And I think you were right as far as the pacing of the movie, because there is there is some setup to the Rebel base, that whole scene with BB-8 and Finn on the Falcon, and so it is kind of a bigger reveal when we finally see the Rebel base and when we finally see Leia.
I mean,
we finally see the Resistance.
Yeah, I don't think the Rebel base is as big a deal, just because that was the location, and there's nothing in the scene that really gives the location away. I think the real deal there is the reveal of Leia later on. And I mean, it looked like there was stuff beyond that, because she has, there was a scene of her with forgetting her name now, but her aide who winds up dying on
Oh yeah.
I really shouldn't be forgetting, but so I thought, essentially Leia had a whole little subplot that was cut from the early part of the movie, and like I said, it would have been nice to have seen it. I mean, the same sort of thing happened with Padme in Revenge of the Sith. She had this whole, essentially, birth of the Rebel Alliance subplot that was completely cut from the movie.
Yeah. And I think the way we can look at this is that this deleted scene is probably going to work fairly well as canon, if you want to make it canon.
Yeah, that's...
But as far as the flow of the movie, we can leave it out, but yet this is still, probably good information when it comes to Star Wars canon.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where if they were ever doing like an extended edition of the movie, which, J.J. Abrams said he doesn't really want to, but if they did, this would be a good scene to reinsert, I think.
Yeah.
But, that's neither here nor there. It's a good scene. I see why they cut it. I kind of wish it was in, but, such is life. Let's see. What would the next one be?
The next one would be...
I think, perhaps...
Maz Kanat, the castle?
It would be either... There'd be two different... I mean, these two are probably about concurrently. Well, let's go with the Tunnel Showdown. This is the one I mentioned. This is one of the longer ones. This one's about a full minute. And this was, kind of teased in the trailer for the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
So again, if you want to see it, you need to redeem the digital copy of your movie or buy the digital HD version. It's not...
Or go to YouTube and watch it there.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not on the disc. Which kind of surprised me at first. I was wondering if they cut it. So I had to look up, how to find it. But anyway, it's essentially, it kind of cuts out when Han, Finn, Maz, the whole gang's kind of cornered in like the bottom of Maz's castle. And in the movie, you just start seeing them shoot their way out. But here, Han, he's kind of a smartass. He gets everyone else to hand over their weapons. They're like, you're under arrest by the order of Supreme Leader Snoke. Han's like, Smoke? Do you know a Smoke?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just him being a smartass. He's, just quipping and whatnot. And then they ask for his Buster's like, it's broken. And that's like the scene.
It's kind of funny, but I'm glad they didn't put it in the movie. I don't think it would have added anything. It didn't seem like it had a place.
Well, yeah, because here's the thing. I enjoyed Han's quipping, especially... I didn't like it as much at first, but towards the end of the scene, especially when he talked about his blaster being broken, I thought that was really funny. You're right. I mean, the movie flows perfectly well, just seeing them shoot their way out of the, the rubble.
Yeah.
But it's like, essentially like, almost like the perfect deleted scene, where it's enjoyable to watch, but its absence doesn't really detract from the movie. I think. But hey, that's just me. Then probably occurring around the same time frame in the movie is the jump to lightspeed, which is all the X-Wings leaving Dakar to go to Takodana.
Hmm. This is the one scene that I thought actually probably could have stayed in the film. Um, yeah, I just liked it. It didn't. I don't think it would have disrupted the pacing very much, and also it had this fun little line with Snap Wexley, where Poe Dameron I think says, "All right, make the jump to light speed," and Snap's like under his breath, like, "Is there any other speed?" You know?
I enjoyed that, but I'm going to disagree with you. I thought this was probably one of the easier scenes to cut, actually, because it really. I mean, I think it would have disrupted the pacing of the film a little bit, because they play the arrival of the resistance as a surprise on Takodana, and you know that it's been set up by the droid, and so they could have played it differently, like, oh, will they get there in time to save our heroes, um, but I think there's like a little bit of suspense when like Han and Finn have been captured, and having this scene would probably ruin that. It ruins the reveal of Poe surviving later in the movie. Um, I mean, it felt really unnecessary to me, honestly. Like, I like the joke, but I didn't see a reason for its inclusion, you know?
Mm. Yeah, that's fair.
Um, then, we skip ahead a bit, and the next deleted scene, I believe, is Kylo searching the Falcon.
Yeah. This one, I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed this scene. It wasn't a whole lot going on, and I'm not. Let's see, where would this have ended up in the film?
Uh, it would have been. I mean, like that's when he first notices the resistance attack. So it would have been like while Han and Finn were breaking out Rey, or finding Rey, I should say. It would
Yeah.
have been somewhere around there. Um,
So I think this probably could have worked.
yeah, I think I like I said, I don't think this needed to be in the movie. Um, but I thought it was a nice scene, and I thought it still would have fit in. So this is one where I'm probably the most surprised it was cut.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a
Yeah.
nice scene, seeing Kylo on his dad's ship, getting kind of annoyed. I think the flow would have worked fine. I guess it doesn't add too much, but it's nice. I'm kind of surprised it's gone. Um, who knows? It was good to see it here, I guess.
Yeah. And then I guess next would be the snow speeders, I think.
The snow speeder chase. If you were following the, let's say the, merchandise for the movie like I was, you probably noticed that the snow speeder got a bunch of collectibles. Little titanium series vehicle. It got a full action figure size vehicle. Lego did a set. And then you see it in like a shot of the movie. But it's not really featured all that much at all. And the reason is this cutscene.
Yeah.
There's this.
Which I don't think is a particularly great scene.
It's really not. It's kind of my hunch is that there might have been more on either end that would have been more enjoyable.
Yeah.
I think if you haven't seen it, the best comparison I can make is the speeder bike chase in Return of the Jedi. It's like, or maybe even Attack of the Clones. The chase there. It's them just kind of going over Starkiller Base. Kind of reinforces that Rey's the better pilot, Finn's a better gunner. Not that mattered all that much.
Which doesn't really matter all that much, I don't think.
No. Really, it's essentially, honestly, the best thing about this scene is if you have collectibles from the movie of the snowspeeder, this makes your purchase feel a little more justified, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's fun. It's not great. I see why they cut it. That I will say though, if you're complaining about plot holes, and you were wondering how Kylo Ren, somehow got like to where he was in the forest, well, he must have left the little base after Rey and Finn. This is your example. The one thing I will say I did like actually, this scene had Rey wearing Finn/Poe's jacket, which she does for like a quick scene in the movie. But I thought it was kind of fun. I enjoyed that look, and so I kind of enjoyed seeing it again here. and Finn's just in his stormtrooper bodysuit. So that was nice. I liked it.
Yeah.
Very chivalrous of him, giving up the jacket like that.
Plus, all three main characters get to wear the jacket.
That was my other thought. I'm like, that jacket gets around.
Maybe they'll just like lay it over BB-8 at the end of the movie, and the circle will be complete. Yeah.
There you go. That's a thought. So that was fun. Yeah.
Which reminds me of one of the little jokes in the tunnel thing where they. Is this about where Han is telling the stormtroopers? Is this about the stormtrooper boots?
Yeah.
And Finn leans over to Han like, "Oh, is that how you knew?" Yeah. It's like.
And so that's fun. So that's
pretty fun.
I guess a nice little reveal from that scene. Again, Han. Yeah. You don't need it in the movie, because you could just say Han's a good judge of character. He can tell when someone's lying. It's not like Finn was a particularly good liar.
No. Star Wars The Force Awakens, the most wardrobe-heavy Star Wars movie ever.
Yes.
2 mentions of clothing. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's fun.
Well, yeah, I think there's, one deleted scene left?
One last deleted scene. Finn will be fine. And it's, like a 20-second scene?
Yeah, literally the words "Finn will be fine" just sums up the entire thing. You do not even need to watch this scene. Yeah.
I mean, you should. I mean, it's essentially, it features the Doctor for another scene. Just letting Rey know that Finn will turn out okay. And I think, obviously, I think the movie kind of insinuates that he's going to be fine. Or I think they even say it. It's just not, said, it's kind of in the background noise.
Now, is it just me, or does that Doctor deliver that line really horribly?
Yeah, I did not. It was weird, because I liked her scene with Chewie, but the delivery there felt off. So who knows? Because I'm with you. I'm like, maybe that's why they cut it. They didn't like her delivery there. Because I thought it was, like I said, it's not a scene you need in. And so I guess if you're trying to trim down and, just get it to what you need to have in the movie, it's a decent scene to cut. But I thought it was nice, and I was, again, just for 20 seconds, I thought it would have fit in at the ending of the movie pretty well, wouldn't have messed with the flow too much. So I wasn't, I was a little surprised they got rid of it, but, not to any insane degree. I'm certainly not annoyed they got rid of it. And so I guess that's the logical question now is, do you think any of these scenes, should have been in the movie, or are they just scenes that you would have enjoyed seeing in the movie?
I think really only 1 or 2 of them would have been, enjoyed. I don't think any of them needed to be. I really don't think any needed to be.
Yeah, so I guess that's a credit to J.J. Abrams that they definitely cut the right stuff, it seems.
That's a credit to Lucasfilm for not putting the deleted scenes that they cut that should have been on the movie in this. They didn't release them.
That's true.
Yeah, because I believe there was more, wasn't there? Didn't they cut a lot more than 20 minutes?
Well, they said he had a lot more footage, but, who knows if that's, deleted scenes or extended scenes, alternate takes.
Yeah.
It's, there probably was, I'm sure they might release more stuff down the line on, the trilogy box set. Think of the, when the Star Wars movies got first released on Blu-ray, that big box set had, newly released deleted scenes from, every movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, even the prequels, they had so many deleted scenes.
I mean, we got 7 from this. I think that's probably around what we got for each movie.
Well, alright, but I guess those ones were generally quite longer, though. The prequel ones were generally a lot longer.
That's true. I mean, Attack of the Clones had a whole, it was unfinished, so saying it's a deleted scene is, I think a little, unfair.
Generous, yeah.
Yeah, but, there was an attack on the droid control ship. So that was, something, certainly. There was,
in episode 1, they had a really sad pod racing story,
during
the pod race.
Exactly. They, and again, that's less deleted and more an extended scene.
Yeah.
I mean, Revenge of the Sith is the one I can think of with, a few pretty major deleted scenes. Shaak Ti had 2 different death scenes cut. And, the one was almost like a whole subplot. Where she had been kidnapped with the Chancellor, and then Grievous was just going to execute her as soon as Obi-Wan found her.
They had to escape into the underbelly of the ship, and those droids coming after them, and all kinds of stuff.
So that one's kind of fun. But then, obviously, I think that the biggest cut thing from the prequels, I would say, is probably that subplot with Padme, about
Yeah.
the formation of the rebellion.
Which was some good. I mean, which wasn't a bad scenes. By the
No, they
way.
weren't
I
bad
mean,
scenes at all. But I mean, Revenge of the Sith, I think it might be like a minute or two shorter than Attack of the Clones, but it's a 2 hour, 20-minute movie that put you at
Yeah.
2.5 hours. And I mean, I see why they were cut. They're probably still canon. I mean, I think
I don't see a reason for them not to be. I mean, we know Bail Organa has been part of the rebellion since the beginning, so I mean, and Mon Mothma too, and so I really don't see that would be too hard to make that canon.
And on that delightful transition, speaking of Mon Mothma, Rogue
Speaking of Mon
One.
Yay!
So lots of stuff to enjoy from the Rogue One trailer. Because you mentioned Mon Mothma, I'll just mention that Mon Mothma's in the Rogue One trailer, played
Yes.
by the actress from those cut Revenge of the Sith scenes,
Okay.
Genevieve
Cool.
O'Reilly.
Nice.
So yeah,
So-
I mean, no, go on.
After seeing this movie, we've said this many times, I've said this many times, that Rogue One has the potential to be a Star Wars movie like we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
This has been said many times, and I think we can now say that that is most definitely true.
Yeah, I agree. It's got I would say it's got a pretty different feel than the other Star Wars trailers we've seen.
Yes. It reminds me kind of a... It's got kind of a Hunger Games type feel to me. It felt a little bit like that in some of the imagery and whatnot. And I know I said that about Force Awakens too, so take that with a grain of salt.
Maybe I just haven't seen enough of the Hunger Games trailers. I don't really see that. But that's just me. But I mean, certainly, I guess maybe the costume, I don't know. But I mean, certainly, it's a very interesting trailer. We get probably our first, we have one name from the new movie now?
Oh, yeah,
We now know that Felicity Jones, the lead female character, is Jyn Erso.
yeah.
And I mean, I think she'll be fun. The trailer kind of sets up her as a bit of a renegade, loose cannon, which is kind of fun because, I don't think we've really had a movie built around someone like that. I mean,
Yeah.
Maybe you could say like Anakin a bit, but even then, he's just kind of whiny and a twat. Whereas she like legitimately has problems with authority and was like acted out and gotten arrested and whatnot.
Yeah.
She rebels.
Yeah. Yep.
So I thought that was a lot of fun. It looks like she might have a potential. Forrest Whitaker does a lot of the voiceover. And I thought he did a good job. This is our first time seeing him, right? Because I don't think he was in the cast shot, was he?
I don't think so.
So he shows up for the first time, gets to deliver a nice little voiceover about what will happen if Jyn keeps fighting, and he asks what she will become. And she appears at the end in what some people have declared online to be Death Star Gunner, Imperial gunner armor.
That's what that is?
Well,
Huh.
I don't know if it's... I'm not 100% on that yet. That's what some people have said.
Let me check this
It
out
makes
here.
sense. Like,
If I'm a little distracted, that means because I'm sitting here watching the trailer over and over again. So if I don't pay attention to what you're saying,
That's
don't
fine.
feel bad. I guess that could be Death Star Gunner. What I'm not sure about is those things on her back.
that's true. Well, and the thing I have to mention is Death Star Gunner armor is notoriously inconsistent in its appearance. Because essentially what you can do, do you know the 501st Legion?
Yeah.
501st Legion makes a big deal out of how you, how screen accurate your costumes are.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
I've heard about how they have very strict details on
Exactly.
what members can build and what they can't.
But for like an Imperial Gunner, you can either do like just the jumpsuit and helmet, or you can do like a leather piece of armor, which is essentially just a Sandtrooper pauldron rotated to go over your chest. this was, I think, originally an action figure, but Hasbro did one that literally was just gave him like a piece of clone armor to throw on, and that's now a legal piece of armor. So the end game is there's a lot of different looks for the Imperial Gunners.
Yeah.
And so if that stuff on the back is a slight variation, well, I think that's somewhat reasonable. That said, it's a shot in profile. You can tell she's wearing black. I mean, the movie is about the Death Star Death Star. So having her be an Imperial gunner, I think, would fit pretty well.
Yeah.
But
here's what I hope they don't do.
Mm-hmm.
So you remember we reviewed the little alien short stories.
Yes.
Remember a while back, and there was a little story in
there.
there.
They're not going to feature him. Just I'm going to end that now. It's not happening.
Okay, because I really hope they don't. Because if they do,
they're not
I'm
going
to get really
it's
mad.
not. The time frame doesn't work either because this is going to have to be too early for that.
Okay, all right. So, in case you were wondering what I was alluding to, is there's a story about how there's an old man with some animals that actually caused the blow up of the first Death Star, and Luke's little proton torpedoes just hit the cafeteria or something.
Well, no. So, what was it? It was that there was something that would have prevented the torpedoes from doing their job, so he cleared that.
Yeah, one of his little animals got.
It was it was a group effort, I think.
But yeah. So when you first said that she's in an Imperial Gunner outfit, I was like, oh no, I hope they don't go the route of this is what actually caused the Death Star to blow up.
They're not
some
going
internal sabotage.
It's not going to be because again, this is about the theft of the Death Star planes, not the Death Star's destruction. Even then, I mean, Luke's always gotten credit for the Death Star. They've said as much in the movies, I think. Certainly in the comics, the pilot who destroyed the Death Star. So, I mean, it's Luke. He gets the credit, no matter how much work Jyn Erso and her merry band of ruffians do. Luke's going to be the one who gets all the glory.
Yeah.
So.
And there was one cool thing though that could come of her, as we see her, if this is Imperial Gunner outfit, is we might get to see a little more of the inner workings of, how the Empire works on screen.
Mm-hmm.
If she has to spend 30 minutes of the movie undercover on the Death Star, I mean hopefully we're going to see quite a few interactions between her and other Imperials, and this movie also has another chance to humanize the Imperials in a way that some of the books like Lost Stars and Battlefront Twilight Company have been able to do, where there's a lot of different Imperials there for a lot of different reasons, and they're not just one-dimensional bad guys.
That said, I don't necessarily have a lot of hope for who looks to be the new main Imperial villain of the movie. In terms of him being three-dimensional, not just there for the right reasons. But here's the thing: I think he's played by Ben Mendelsohn. I really like the look of this new Imperial Admiral, Grand Admiral, the guy in the white uniform you're looking at.
Yeah. Personally, I hope he's ISB, but I don't think so. He
could be ISB. There's who knows, honestly, at this point. I don't think we have a canon Grand Admiral. There's talk of Thrawn coming to Rebels. We have a Grand General in Tag.
Yep, Tag.
But he doesn't wear white. He just wears his old uniform. The only person we see in the movies wearing a white uniform is Yularen, and he's ISB.
Which me and Matt were talking about last night. Would be awesome to bring him back for some reason.
Yes.
Because, he was a great character in the Clone Wars. He had a cool relationship with Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would be awesome to bring him back. And, we know that he's ISB. I think he made a brief appearance in Tarkin.
I think he got mentioned, yeah. Tarkin mentioned a lot of recurring characters. It brought a few in from the EU. So we'll see. I like the look of this guy. I like the cape. Very nice, very ostentatious. And again, I like the idea of our main villain just being an Imperial officer, not the Emperor.
Yes.
Though I guess that's a decent transition, because maybe the Emperor is going to show up, perhaps, potentially.
Yeah.
Because if you guys don't get what we're talking about, there's a quick scene with a hooded figure from behind, but the telling feature are two Imperial guards.
Yes.
So who knows where it is? There's a delightful-looking pillar of light, almost kind of like a Bacta tank that's just kind of oversaturated. But we'll see. Palpatine could be making an appearance.
And here's how I think they could do that really well, is if they go the route of the Star Wars annual issue. That would be awesome. Just, the rebels are kind of working, everything's working out so far, and then Palpatine shows up very briefly and puts an end to everything. Just done, and then leaves. So he's not, he's not a main villain. He just shows up at the last minute, cackles at everybody's idiocracy, and then kills them everyone.
My honest thought is that if they're going to do that with someone, they'll have Vader do that. Yeah. And I honestly think that would work better. As much as I like Palpatine, I think having Vader kind of be the Emperor's hammer makes a little more sense than the Emperor himself showing up somewhere just to get his hands dirty for a sec.
Yeah.
But either way, the potential for a Palpatine appearance is pretty cool. Like, I'm with you. I don't want him to be the main villain of the movie. I hope that's the Imperial officer we see, Ben Mendelsohn. But yeah, Vader appearance, Emperor appearance, Tarkin appearance, Yularen appearance. I'm with you. I'm hoping for some recurring Imperial characters here.
Mm-hmm. And it will be interesting to see who that Imperial officer is, because so far I believe the new canon has been fairly consistent when it comes to Imperial officers as far as who is in favor at what time, how many of them are there, who are the major ones. They've stayed pretty consistent to that. Name dropping, fairly consistently throughout all the books and stuff. So I wonder who it's going to be, and if it might someone with that rank. I have a feeling it might be someone we've already seen before, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
There's someone mentioned that we could see hints. It was might have been Stephen Stanton, I forget. That there might be hints as to who it is in like Tarkin the novel or something. Who knows? We'll see. Again, it's the sort of thing where so long as they do a good job building the character and don't rely on legends or EU or outside source history, I think having it be someone that we've seen before is fine.
Yeah, and I mean I don't mind if it's someone we haven't had a lot of history build up for. I would just like it to be consistent with the rest, to where you can definitely see who's on top of the power struggle in Tarkin, which is not going to take place not very long at all from this movie.
I think you're incorrect there. I think there's going to be...
Yeah.
Tarkin's pretty close to Revenge of the Sith, isn't it?
Well, hold on. I want to say Tarkin is 14 years after Revenge of the Sith?
I think you're incorrect there. I'm going to look that up now.
All right.
Let's see.
Let's see
novel. Base. What I really should do is just grab a novel and look at their timeline there.
Yeah.
I mean, well, Vader still has clones serving with him. And you would think that...
Well, you had clones being grown all the way up until the end. So to think that a clone has been in service for 14 years isn't too...
They were phasing him
Tarkin
out, though.
Tarkin does express shock, though, that he was a clone again, though.
Let's see. Birch Teller campaign. Let me just look up that. Because my thought was it was a few years after Revenge of the Sith, and there would probably be like a solid decade. Let's see. Yeah. Birch Teller, the campaign in Tarkin took place 4 years, not 14.
Okay, 4 years. Okay, so I suppose that during that period, some other Imperial officer could have...
Right, because here's the thing.
Climbed to the top, yeah.
Rebels doesn't get into the whole Imperial power structure in terms of officers.
Yeah.
Then, Lords of the Sith is a few years after Tarkin, I think. But not by much. And that doesn't have a focus on Imperial officers, either way. The next thing that does mention some Imperial officers, like A New Dawn mentions some.
Count Vidian and Baron Baron Danth, I believe.
Yeah, but even then, it doesn't get into like the whole structure, just the two.
Yep.
And then the next thing that references people is probably maybe Twilight Company, which is after Yavin. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of time for someone to come into power and then probably die here in World One. I think there's enough
Yeah.
time for that to go down.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right.
Um, so we'll see. One thing that I really liked about the trailer, especially from my own little collecting standpoint, is all the types of armor that we saw.
Yeah, there's a lot of different types.
Yeah, so obviously, Felicity Jones looks like she's in something new at the end. We get the classic Stormtrooper armor, which we'll talk about a little more. But you can see, I think, 3 or 4 new types of armor. Shiloh, you have the trailer up, right? So I'll be screenshotting this. So Shiloh, if you go to 105 in the trailer, you can see like
105.
some stormtroopers walking, but there's a little speeder, and on the back it looks like there's a new type of armor there.
Let's see, 105. I'm not seeing a new type of armor there. Let me look.
What's the foreground? You have the stormtrooper there with the big rifle, yeah.
Yep.
Look
The
behind
T-21.
him. Look behind him in the speeder.
Okay. I could. Yeah, that does look different.
Yeah.
At least the helmet looks kind of strange.
The helmet looks strange and the shoulders look different.
Yeah.
Either way, new type of armor. Obviously, the big exciting new type of armor is what they teased in the teaser for the trailer, which is the Black Death Trooper. Got the Stand Trooper, all black look, Stand Trooper Paladin, new helmet. It's an armor that was teased, I think, on Donnie Yen's Instagram. So it's nice to see that making its way to the movie. Looks really cool. I'm excited to see where they go with that.
Yeah.
And then there's one other scene where it might be that same armor from 105. I need to find it. But it's in the background. Like if you look at 112, you see all the stormtroopers running. There's definitely a different type of armor in there that I think looks different from the type at 105 as well.
It looks...
That tannish camo sort of look.
Yeah, that looks like the Kashyyyk troopers almost.
Yeah, it looks like
almost
like a step between Kashyyyk troopers and regular scout troopers.
Yeah.
So that could be a third new type of armor. So anyway, they're introducing a lot of new Imperial armor types. I'm a sucker for that sort of thing. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
It'll be interesting to see how they retcon the Shadow Troopers into the rest of the canon. Because if they only make an appearance here and then don't show up anywhere else, that's going to be kind of strange.
Well, it depends what these... I mean, if these are like an elite shock trooper, then would it be? I don't know. I mean, if they're up for like espionage and like counter spy stuff, you don't get any of that in the original trilogy.
Yeah, but even in other stuff, so like say these are elite shock trooper, I mean they could be sending them after little rebel cells and stuff. It seems like we probably would have seen something like this in Battlefront Twilight Company.
Maybe, but even then, again, that's like it's an pretty big. I mean, it's an army unit essentially. It's not exactly counterinsurgency.
And it seems to me though that like all the like the espionage stuff, like in Heir to the Jedi and in Battlefront Twilight Company, in Lost Stars, the espionage is done by ISB agents who are either plainclothes or who look more similar to Agent Callus than...
That's true.
Because, if you're really trying to do counterterrorism and espionage, walking
yeah.
around in a Shadow Trooper outfit is probably not the best way to go.
Maybe not counterterrorism. Maybe the end game is we don't know what they do. And so when the movie comes out, then we will debate if it's a continuity problem that we haven't seen them yet. My hunch is probably not. It's pretty easy to hand wave stuff like this. And then the other thing is, they've had the plans for this for, a few years now. And if they really thought they should have been included somewhere to introduce them, they probably would have.
That is a good point, yeah.
So we'll see. But one of the things we've been talking about a lot is what's new in this trailer. But at the same time, I thought a lot of its appeal was like nestled firmly in nostalgia.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Think of I think almost everyone's favorite moment from say the second, even the first Force Awakens trailer was based on stuff we had seen before. So think like the first trailer, the big scene at the end is the Millennium Falcon. And then Chewie, we're home became an iconic line just from that trailer. I mean, it was all grounded in characters we had seen before.
Yeah.
And even though it was visual signifiers, you saw stormtroopers, but they were new stormtroopers. You saw X-wings, but they were new X-wings. But this is a New Hope classic stuff. It looks like a lot of it's on Yavin base, and even if we're dwelling on mostly a new cast of characters, you still have Mon Mothma returning.
Which I really
excited for. I'm with you. I'm really glad we're seeing Mon Mothma. But think the first shot, you see the classic Rebel Fleet Trooper look. You have classic Stormtrooper armor throughout this.
Which is really awesome to see, actually.
It's so great to see.
They really, some of my favorite stuff is the Ewok battle at the end of Episode 6, and that's just solely for the reason we get to see Stormtroopers running around having a literal battle. Because you just don't get to see that very much. And you get to see it once in A New Hope, and then pretty much they're just either cannon fodder or room decoration until the end there.
You get the classic Star Destroyers. I mean, those are great shots. The Star Destroyer up against the Death Star, then putting the the super laser getting installed.
Yeah, and I really like how the Death Stars, not the Death Stars, the Star Destroyers, they didn't modernize their look.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they kept their look like that, model from the 1970s.
Exactly.
You can only get so good with that stuff. They don't look modern, and they look like we originally saw them. Which they could easily make a much quote unquote better looking Star Destroyer nowadays, but they still kept that iconic look, which I really like.
Think my comparison would be say the Star Trek movies, the new ones. They modernized the look of the Enterprise, but is that better? I would say probably not. I'm with you. I'm really happy the Star Destroyers look like they do.
Yeah, and one of the things the Force Awakens did is they modernized a fair amount of their stuff as far as the look of everything, which was okay in some spots, but in other places I really didn't care for it that much.
At least though, the thing is, at least in the Force Awakens, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. If they modernize the look here, you'd have to go pretty hard to retcon that stuff.
Yeah. One of the things that I need to take another closer look at, but I've heard it have a different look. The AT-ATs we see look apparently a little different from Hoth, and I need to take another look to see how different they really are. But again, nostalgia.
Yeah, I don't have a degree in AT-ATs. I know some people do. But yeah, looks like an AT-AT to me. I don't know.
Exactly. It's it's obviously an AT-AT. If there are any changes, they're small. And again, it's just really cool to see them. Similarly, there's a nice shot of Felicity Jones and Diego Luna's character walking out of Yavin base, and you have a bunch of the classic Rebel pilots.
Which almost looked like a fan film there at the beginning.
A little bit.
Yeah.
What I'm noticing now, when I'm freeze framing that shot, you have some guys. There's a guy who almost reminds me of a Hoth trooper with his outfit, but then a color palette swap to fit, Yavin. So that's pretty cool looking. I feel like I might recognize some of those Rebel helmets. So I'm curious to see if they actually decide to go.
I was talking with Matt last night about this, and he said that he put some pictures of this up on Rebel Scum and was like, "Hey guys, do any of you recognize these helmets?" And on Rebel Scum, there are some people with literally doctorate degrees in Rebel pilots,
of course,
and they identified several of them.
Yeah, the one that I'm recognizing, I forget who the pilot is, but the all red one is definitely familiar. I couldn't tell you right now who it is.
Yeah, but he was saying there was several of them that have been seen before. So
So that'll be really cool. Again, it's nice little continuity nods, stuff like that. I think very exciting. Um, we probably should mention. I mean, we don't get too much of. We get to look at these new characters, like we mentioned. We get to see Diego Luna. We get to see Donnie Yen's character. He faces off against some stormtroopers, in what I thought was a pretty cool looking scene. As someone noted online, there's a shot of him like holding like a stick of some sort or weapon, surrounded by stormtroopers. It very much looks like something out of a samurai movie.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty darn cool. So I'm excited to see that.
Yeah. I really like seeing, the stormtroopers in here, but I just hope they don't become cannon fodder. And
like they have been in literally all of their appearances ever.
Yes.
Good luck.
Yeah.
My honest hunch is if you want to see competent Imperial troopers, we just need the black ones.
The Shadow Trooper. Yeah, it's gonna be the Shadow Troopers. Which I guess they can do it. I don't know. I'm still hoping for that lost cause that the Stormtroopers have some degree of competency, but oh well.
I mean, they have some degree of competency. Here's the thing: I bet we'll have a few scenes of them kicking ass against Rebel troops. It's only when they're up against our mains that they don't do well. And even then, I'm not saying I think Stormtroopers will kill them, but I think we could get some of the supposed leads of this movie not making it out.
Yeah,
they've said
which I actually hope will. I think that would lend more, drama to the, to the plans of the Death Star. So
exactly.
I actually kind of hope that nobody makes it out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. The benefits of using a cast of new actors and new characters is that we don't know what happens to them. Like, if say one of the rebel pilots from A New Hope was a main character, that'd be cool tying it in like that. But then we know they make it out. Here, I don't think anyone's safe.
No.
So
now, I have heard some theories that the guy that one of those guys is Biggs, the guy in the jacket who was off to the corner in the first.
Oh,
scene
the Diego Luna's character, the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. I guess I kind of see it ish, but I don't think that's necessary, and I'm not sure the timing lines up there either. If they're treating some of the deleted scenes from A New Hope as canon.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I mean, they could go. I mean, if they decide to kill off all our new characters, they could make, say this Biggs, and make one of the rebel pilots a main character. So it wouldn't feel like everyone dies off. It would just be the characters that were brought in specifically for this. They would die off, and then the ones we already know are in the movies, would obviously stay until.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I'm not saying I hope everyone dies. I think there's a decent chance that we could, see more stuff from some of these characters who happen to make it out. But that being said, I want there to be stakes. And a pretty easy way to establish that is by killing your characters. So we'll see.
Yeah. And this is we haven't really seen the Star Wars movie where everyone dies in the end. Even Revenge of the Sith, not everyone dies in the end. There's still quite a few people who go forward because they have to be, in the next movies.
Right.
But this Rogue One is going to be a different Star Wars movie than we've ever seen before. So there's a good chance that they could do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know about you, but I think we've hit this trailer pretty well.
Yeah, I think we got pretty much all of it, and we'll just be sticking around waiting for the next one.
That's the dream. Celebration, hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can always send us an email at fasterandmoreintense@gmail.com. You can check us out on iTunes at Faster and More Intense Podcasting. We're on YouTube at Faster and More Intense Podcasting, on Facebook at Faster and More Intense Podcasting, and on Twitter at FMI Podcasting. Star Wars is the exclusive trademark of Lucasfilm Limited. All Star Wars names and sounds are the exclusive copyright of Lucasfilm or parent company. All content generated on this site is the exclusive intellectual property of Faster and More Intense.